Alright, so it's your boy xBenv0liox coming with the last of the Alex games, and this time I'm pulling out an army build that's worked for me in the past. It would be the Orc composition with some slight variations. So I'm bringing it in my last-ditch attempt to beat Alex in this series of 3 games I played against him, in which he did quite well. Um, so in this army build, I'm the Greenskins. Sorry, this is Greenskins army, and he's playing the Vampire Counts. So Vampire Counts don't have any ranged units, so I tried to take advantage of that with having cavalry, with a bigger cavalry build, an elite infantry build, and some archers. So let's just quickly take a look at what I'm bringing here. Anchoring my line are the Black Orcs, armored and armor piercing, just nice big stats, always last at the end of the fight. Very expensive, but very effective. And I've managed to park my infantry up on this little hill at the back of the map, which is going to force his infantry to advance up that hill and give me a downhill advantage. So flanking the Black Orcs on either side are Orc Biggins. That's their name. That's pretty fancy, huh? Orc Biggins. That's B in their name. Damage dealer and bigger and harder. So they're just big, tanky, buffed up infantry, all built like linebackers they are. Big green linebackers. 2 groups of them flanking the Black Orcs. So we got any chevrons in these guys? One chevron each. No chevrons in the Black Orcs. We've got Knight Goblin Archers, 3 groups. Fanatic Archers in the back. Special ranged weapon, Vanguard deployment, and poison attacks. This is my archery line. 3 groups of those behind the infantry, and that's basically it for my infantry on foot build. On the flank, starting with the left flank, I've got my War Boss astride his Wyvern out here. Let's take a look. On the War Boss, armored, armor piercing, causing terror. Although terror's not going to make too much difference against the undead, I think. But yeah, so he's leading. He's hovering above a group of Orc Boar Boys, anti-infantry, shielded and armor piercing, and Orc Boar Boy Biggins, anti-large armor piercing. So I'm getting the anti-infantry and anti-large both represented in my cavalry, and as well as the Morgrub's Mangy Marauders with armor-piercing missiles, able to fly around very fast. So if he's got armored infantry or cavalry, these guys are going to be great at really pestering that and staying out of its reach while doing some decent damage against it. As you can see, he's deployed in there behind me, but we'll get to that in a minute. So that's one flank. That's my left flank. On my far right flank, hidden in the trees over here, I have Orc Boar Boy Biggins again. Another group of Orc Boar Biggins, another group of Orc Boar Boys. So anti-infantry and anti-large, both represented, backed up by a group of Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers. They're riding on spiders. They've got poison attacks, so poison arrows. Just kind of annoying, debuffing troops that they hit with that poison. And my Orc Shaman casting those devastating spells with that cavalry astride a boar. So I'm opted for kind of big mobility on the flanks with a solid infantry core, and trying to take advantage of the fact that he's kind of lacking in ranged units. But let's take a look at what he's got. And first of all, he's used Vanguard deployment on a couple, and he's placed in a couple cavalry units behind me. So here are, I don't know if we've seen much of the vampire counts, but these are the Chillgeist, Hexwraiths, armor piercing, ethereal. What does ethereal mean? No, come here. Ethereal. It means ignore most damage done by non-magical weapons. As they have shed most of their physical form, they are not slowed by terrain-based movement penalties either. Oh no. So I basically need magical attacks to deal with them effectively. Ooh, and Hexwraiths are also ethereal. So he's got two nasty groups of basically Ghost Riders with those scythes. And he's deployed behind my cavalry on my left flank, so that's not going to be good news. So the Hexwraiths and the Chillgeists being the Chillgeists themselves being a regiment around, Hexwraiths being standard ethereal cavalry, as standard as ethereal cavalry is ever going to be. And for his main line, he's got a bunch of skeletons, so skeleton warriors with swords, 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups of those, 1 with no chevrons, 1 with 1 chevron, and 1 with 2 chevrons. And he's got skeleton spears, no chevrons. Okay, so that's his basic infantry line, all those, so 3 spears, 3 swords. All skelly, so pretty weak infantry, really. And he's got some monstrous units over on his left flank, coming up, advancing over the top of the hill. These crypt horrors, these kind of like the abominations in Warcraft 3, I guess is the approximate. But they're a little more in shape, a little less fat, and a little more in shape. Got those nasty bone clubs. Oof, they're going to be bad, but my Boar Boy Biggins are going to be chewing them right up if they can get in contact with them. At the back, he's got, let's take a look. Bring out your dead. Bring out your dead. He's got a corpse cart. Unholy Lodestone. Not a combat unit, but it's giving a buff in an area, regenerating his troops in an area of effect. So it's basically a support unit. Support unit going to come up, support his infantry, and give him that healing buff. Kind of keep him in the fight longer. And then over on his right flank here, he's got Blood Knights. So these are actual vampires. They're not undead. They're not zombies. They're not skeletons. There's actual vampires on cavalry. So they're like really strong. Cavalry, armored and shielded, anti-large. They have frenzy. So again, they're going to be doing really well when their morale is high. And so they're really strong because they're actual vampires, not just undead shells. And he's got a White King, a melee specialist, armored and shielded, and anti-infantry, charging uphill. But it looks like, let's get it started, because it looks like I'm bringing in my Orc Boar Boy Biggins to collide with his, yeah, here we go, Blood Knights across this hill charge. Let's see how this looks. Alright, okay, and Durkits, sorry, not Morgrum's Mangy Marauders firing in against those Blood Knights. It's going to be good. They're taking a decent amount of damage, but, oof. They really melted my Orc Boar Boy Biggins. I don't know. Just superior stats, I guess, even despite with the melee support. Okay, that's over on that. So that's over on that flank. On my left flank, on my right flank, I've collided with the Crypt Horrors, and my Boar Boys here are going to be doing much better against them. But again, just slowed down. The Spider Rider Archers firing in, charging downhill against these Skeleton Spears. That's pretty good for Boar Boy Biggin, not Boar Boy Biggin. Should have had the other Boar Boys on them because they have the infantry advantage. But alas, it's gonna go get better. But the Blood Knights are running off, and I almost forgot Manfred von Karstein's on a zombie dragon over there chasing down my lord. Let's take a look at the back here. So these run off the Morgrum's Mangy Marauders and the Orc Boar Boys, not having a good time of it, and Manfred von Karstein on a zombie dragon bullying my war boss as the infantry closes. But I'm on a good my infantry's in a good position on the hill, but I'm going to need to shut down that corpse cart before I can start buffing the troops and basically giving them super duper regeneration abilities. Over here, it looks like I'm just cleaning up the Cryptors, I hope. Yeah, Wah popped, so it's going to be giving all my orcs a big buff. Let's turn off the information there. So they're holding well on top of the hill, but forgot to mention, okay, so here's his lord, Manfred von Karstein. Let's just slow that down a bit, take a bit of a look at Mr. Manfred von Karstein. Pop on the info too, so we didn't get him earlier. So he's spellcaster, armored, armor piercing, and scaly skin. So, and I think his stats are just much higher than my orc war boss. You can just see his zombie dragon's much bigger. So, despite the wah, he's gonna be bullying my war boss pretty effectively. The ideal thing would have been able to get the goblin archers shooting into Manfred, but they've been nicely disrupted by the hex wraiths, which I don't have a good answer for, having no magic attack. So, so basically, he's really disrupted my back line. I'm unable to bring the archers to bear in any effective manner, thus negating that advantage they would have given me. So he's really he's played those hex wraiths really well in starting them behind my line. He can use them to cancel out my archers. My boar boys have been run off and all slain over here by the Blood Knights. Blood Knights victorious. Okay, they're coming back and basically closing to finish it. And this is going to be game 3 for Alex, basically. I did manage to cast a spell to do a bit of damage. I am coming in with my cavalry over here. The Orc Boar Boys and the Orc Shaman chasing down this infantry, getting sandwiched by the Spider Riders. So, you know, the infantry were easy for me to take care of. I seem to always be winning these infantry fights. The Orc Boar Boy Biggins trying to stop the corpse cart, getting run off, though, by the Hex Wraiths, the Chillgeists, excuse me. Just basically taking no damage from them either. Just really effective. It's almost not even fair. And the Blood Knights are able to come in. Vindictive Glare going off against Manfred von Karstein from my Orc Shaman, but that's not going to be super effective. The Blood Knights coming in for glorious charge against Boars and bringing them down nicely. Scaring them off, routing them immediately. Orc Shaman still trying to stand strong, but I believe my my war boss has been run off. The Biggins and the Black Orcs are holding out really well against the infantry. The White Kings closed with the Biggins, giving the support to the skeleton warriors. So they're holding out really well, but again, he's able to bring that dragon to bear and that cavalry, that ethereal cavalry is going to basically give him this game. And that was it. That was the last of the Alex games. He's so he tooled me in all three. Took advantage of my weaknesses and really yeah, really exploited my weaknesses and also made the most of what he was bringing. So let's take a look at the kill count, because he totally dominated that one. Just like icing on the cake for him, I guess. He just completely dominated. And what's hilarious is that I still have a lot of troops, or a decent amount of troops, I guess, in terms of infantry, but they just got routed because they saw the writing on the wall. So my warboss got no kills. My goblin archers were basically completely nullified by his hex wraiths. The boar boys, yeah, again, not as effective. The most effective units were the Black Orcs and the Biggins because they just got to chew up the skeleton infantry, but that's not very useful. What he made the most use of was the cavalry, although I did manage to shut down his crypt horrors quite effectively. But that was basically the only place I had an advantage. So, well done, Alex. 3 out of 3. Yeah, and so that's all for this one. It's for Benvolio, for the boys back home. Keep it real.